So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show with live peoples having a chat in chat. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for Ustream for people to watch at their leisure. I've purchased some extra Neocolor 2s to bring up some of my old ones to 92. And I've put them in my little book of colours. So I've got my kind of obscure skin colours here, greys, I've got my whites, my darks, I've got my lemon yellows, bright yellows, orangey yellows and oranges, then I've got the reds, oranges to reds, reds to reddy purples, sorry, purpley reds, these are all reds. Then I've got all my pinks and my purples. I've got my turquoises and my very bright light blue greens. Then I've got my bright greens and my dark greens. I've got my purpley blues, and they've all got the plastic between, but I like the fact I can see them all, and I just have to flick the plastic when I decide which one I want to see. I then have my cold browns and my warm reddy browns and my olives at the back. So I've labelled them, and I've also done a colour swatch. So although I only have one square, I've got 10 shades. So there's 92 Neocolor 2s, so I have 920 shades to play with. And I normally use this book differently, but I think I'm going to start and work in certain colours. So it'll be the Neocolor 2s, which these are. The Neo Arts, that's a Neo Art one. There's very little difference, if any. So we're going to be working in the Imagimorphia, because it's been neglected, this book, really. And I'm loving the colours. So I've just revamped, on my first video, I used two colours quite a lot, some of them not so much, but the brown here and the grey that I use, the Payne's grey, I use quite a lot, but it's so easy to get the crayon out, scribble over them, and then they're back perfectly as they were. So I did sepia, and then I spent 2 or 3 days using it, and I used a quarter of it, and I've just scribbled over the top, and you can hardly see where I've been. So that means now that's full of colour again. And I'm using my Derwent #1 water brush because it's a lot easier. And I was using the other ones for this when my husband was in hospital, and I kind of fell in love. I've always liked the water brushes, especially with the Neos, when I was going abroad, when I went everywhere abroad, even on planes, they've been everywhere. But I didn't think, I'd kind of lost flavour because they're just that little bit too wet. And then I did this using the ink tents, but I used my #1 brush, and I was just manipulating colour. And I managed to do it one-handed because I was in the hospital. So I sat in the wheelchair with the little book here, and I actually used my Peerless little squares of colour, and I'm going to have to buy some more because the Tea Rose Red has gone, but I loved it, and just used the Tea Rose Red, and I think I used a green. And there's only 2 colours used, but I got quite a few different shades. So that helps me fall in love with the water brushes, but make sure they're not too wet. So I've got a tissue or just a barely damp baby wipe, but you don't want it too wet. You want to keep it as dry as possible. And if you just kind of manipulate the tip, you don't seem to get as much water as if you're kind of moving it about. So if you give it a lot of bending, it stimulates the water. But if you just kind of use the tip, you have a drier brush. And I really like that. So I'm going to be using that technique a lot, and it led me to the Neos, and I thought I would catch up, and it's a lot quicker. I get some nice images, so I'm getting a bit bogged down with things now, but it's fairly quick and it's easy. You know, you have this on your knee with this, and if I'm working on here, then I'll work like this, and if I'm working at this side, I'll just pop it to there, and I normally work on a little cushion tray, and that keeps things flat. But if you're using a hard-backed colour book, it's a lot easier. But I love the fact that you're not using too much colour. The crayons look hardly touched, so I'm really impressed with that, and I do like my little book. So we have a ship here, so I'm going to zoom in and then I'm going to start to play. Now I have my laptop working properly, which is wonderful. I can do everything with the touch of a button, so I'll zoom in and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to work on the ship. So I've been using some browns. I think we might have a colder brown. I think this Van Dyke brown is quite nice. And this is, if you want different tones next to each other, you just work away from each other, and then by the time you come back the colour's changed, so it works really well. I think I'm going to actually zoom in a bit more because I seem to be quite a long way away from there. So I'm just going to shut that very quickly, and I will drop the camera. And hopefully keep the wires out of the way. Won't make everybody sick. So I'll pull that down there. You can see that a little bit better. So I've just touched the edge, and I love the fact that, but once you've used it you can't go back because it's the water, but I really like the fact that it's a lot easier to use, and I am basically just manipulating a small corner, but that's going to give me tons and tons of colour, and then you can end up with the pale for the highlight without touching anything else. So think about where you want it the darkest, and then anything else has got a natural highlight, and everything gets touched with this tiniest bit of colour. And I think we may have, and of course I know what this can do because I have this colour scheme here. So the palest in here is going to be down here, but here is going to be the darkest, and that's the same for all of them. So if I want somewhere here, I'll go here. If I want something darker, I'll go here, and this is how I use it. Oh, have I done something to it? Let me have a look. What have I done? Let me have a look. Bear with me 2 seconds. I think it did when James just typed something and mine popped up. I think that's what's happened. when I've just... Is that any better? Is that okay, Jane? That's good, thank you. It's I don't think it's any particularly better since they've been faffing about with it, but there again. Is that okay? So thanks for stopping by, guys. Really right doing this. I've been a bit stressed the last few days because I could not get my Ustream channel to play nice. Totally my fault. The laptop was a bit slow, I have to admit, but it was it certainly didn't have anything to do with the flash player on the settings. It was some new settings that YouTube had put, but they didn't say that. They just said, you know, change the setting, and when you change the setting, so I did it about 100 times. Because if you went in and it wasn't in the browser it said it was somewhere else. So that's so thanks guys for trying to get me back on track. But that was a bit frustrating because and I wouldn't have been able to do it on this laptop. I actually did it on my little one that I have upstairs. So so if you want to leave a highlight, I just go somewhere else with this colour. And then if you want a little bit of a shadow, that's the darker brown. But once you've been in once with it, you have to be careful because it's a watercolour and it will disintegrate in front of your eyes if you wet it too much. But again, a colour book, it's about the crinkle, it's a baby wipe. Now I do tend to actually dirty a baby wipe when I'm working this way because you have to clean your brush, especially with the Neos. You know, any Neos, they are so vibrant, you have to clean your brush. So thanks for stopping by on this impromptu day, but there's something quite magical, and this is why I love my book. I just flick. Now I used to flick to different sections, so I would mix my Caran d'Ache coloured. I would mix my Kuratangi Gansai Tambi watercolours with my Caran d'Ache, with my Derwent pencils, my Inktense, my Peerless. I would mix them all up, so I'd have something purple, then I'd look for a blue. But I think I'm going to use just the Neos on this because I like the colours, and I do have so many colours. I can now do that, and I've made bigger squares, so I can do that. So I like the turquoisey and purpley blues. So this there's a periwinkle blue, which is quite nice, and this is a sapphire blue. And you do really need the tiniest amount of colour. This is a small brush and you do need the tiniest amount of blue. And we'll do a feather. But of course we all know that the Neos are really, really vibrant. So if you do this, you get different shades. There's probably a little bit too much blue on there because I touched it twice. But you can get a feather and then you can highlight it. But now that's wet, you really have to let it dry. Haven't decided about the barn owls yet. I've been playing with the little silly creatures, as I call them, but there are some really nice colours in this set that I've kind of put together purely by chance, and it's allowed me to kind of play with these colours. Now that's a bit like the whale, so I'm going to go to the turquoisey blues, I think. There's some really nice turquoisey blues on here. So if you're very quick, you can go over, but be very careful. It is a piece of paper and you are scrubbing it with a brush. And these are Mad Main brushes, so they're quite strong. Now he's got some Christmas decorations on there, so I think I'm going to have to do those. A really nice cherry red. So we can see what he's got there. There's a lot of pots and plant pots and things, and globes and pots. So has anybody got any questions? Yes, I did, Sandy. I managed to record it. It took a while, but I did manage. Thank you. I'll have to try and play it back, but yes, I did try to. But I just like the fact that I'm mixing pinks and teals and colours that I wouldn't normally mix together. I'd want to be a bit more reality. And maybe it's really, really nice. I have 6 gorgeous pinks to play with, and that makes such a difference. And there is a little bit of pink on the end there, so I've got to look for maybe a little creature that I could do pink, maybe. Do him a pink hat. Because I cannot waste too much. I'm trying not to be too wasteful. Haven't decided on the butterflies. There's a bit of a pink gem there. So again, I've just managed to go from that pink to this pink. And then when I clean this, there's going to be hardly anything on it. So as a tight Yorkshire lass, I like that. We have another feather, so we're going to have a nice bright blue. And if you're not happy with it, you can go back. But I do like the fact that I'm playing, like here, I did 4 different shades, and it ended up looking like it was a real nice kind of watercolour effect. I'm just looking to see. Sometimes doing the clouds is quite good. There is kind of a globe there. And these yellows are very vibrant. They are wonderful bright colours. Sometimes it's quite nice to put 2 kind of bright colours together. And then I think I do those little creatures, I think I do those yellow. So there's always a bit of yellow kicking about. Even when you think there isn't, you've still got yellow on there. I think I'm going to leave him white. There's some more clouds about, so we've got that Payne's grey, and that was quite nice to use. So again, just touching that little corner, and because I filled that in now, I've lost my little circle. And darkest first, and then if you manipulate it out, you should end up with a nice highlight. There's another one, I think, behind there. And it's a very quiet, peaceful way to work as well. I quite like it. I think that's, not sure what that is. It doesn't really look like a cloud. I'm going to leave that. Some dragon wings there. There's a snail. Some things, and I think there's some waves there, so that wants to be kind of like a dark blue inside. So just see if I can find some more clouds. There's a cloud there. So, and the colour will stay on your brush, ready for you to use. And what else did we have? I think we might do some waves now. I think these are waves. And there's a periwinkle. Oh no, I think this is cerulean blue 160. This is a really nice kind of deepy blue, so I'm going to go in here with this. And this is going to kind of really brighten things up a bit. And it's a bit faster way to work as well. It's a bit faster, so I like it. I think I'm going to leave the very tips. I think, I'm not sure, unless I just do them very pale. So I just wanted to show really how easy and nice it is to work with these Neos. And it doesn't matter if you've got Neo Color 2s or Neo Art Bars, or even if you've got some others. If it's a good quality pigment, you know, you can do this. And I will be doing this with my pastels, my ordinary pastels. I will be doing this by touching the colour and manipulating it from a pastel to a watercolour. And I will be doing that with a water brush when I get all my gorgeous colours set. Now this isn't going to be spectacular, it's just a neat, really nice, easy, quiet way to work. And there is quite a lot of greens in here, but you can't see, they're not coming up quite as good. So if I do the sea, I am going to be using a fair amount of this blue. Sorry, back alert. But it's so easy, even for me. The pencils are more difficult because it's a graphite, but these are all so creamy that you just kind of scribble it on once, and they kind of literally gouge onto the page. They're very easy to manipulate onto a paper palette. Very, very nice to use. And that's why artists use them, and that's why you can also use them, which I have done in another page. I've used them a different way. which is why I wanted to get some more, which if I find my page I can tell you. It may not have been in this book. I think it was in Imagimorphia. I started, I don't think it was that one. I think this one. I think it was this one. I don't think this. I can't remember which horse this was. Whether it was the Neo ones or whether it was my Derwent art bars. I think this is the Neo and this is going to be the art bars, I think. But it's a crayon, so it's really easy to manipulate that colour. And it's quite nice just to sit and pick these off one at a time. Just going steady, finding out what's going on inside all these magical spaces. And then once you've got the cloud, you can then decide what's in front of it and what's behind it. And that becomes a little bit easier to follow. It doesn't suddenly become one mass of a certain colour. I think that's another cloud behind there, but this is definitely C. And you do get a sense of how much to use, how much to manipulate the water out, and you get good control. I'm not quite sure what that is, so I'm going to leave it for the moment. And I'm going under this fish because I think this is C. And if there's anything that's very pale, then I'm going to put some dark in front of it because that'll make it stand out. I think that's a splash. This is a splash, I'm pretty sure, so I think it'll start here. And by the time you've taken that back, you've just got that palest of pale, but it is a blue highlight. And this one as well. And then you can just touch a bit darker and really kind of get into there. For this dark kind of wave. But you do tend to get carried away because it's a really nice, easy way to work. And all you're doing is pushing a very small brush about. So it becomes quite comfortable to use as well. It's not you haven't got lots of big things to move about. So it's a really nice way of working. And also that's the fish, the fish's fin, which I almost made into something else. So that's his fin. That could be a wave, I think, behind there. And I think that's a wave as well. And again, if that's really dark, it's going to make that pink show up. So if you've got any questions, pop them in caps. Thank you for joining me. Hope everybody's okay. was definitely getting withdrawal symptoms not making videos. But it's nice to be back. I think that's a cloud. So it doesn't really take that long to really get some good colour down. And I think in here as well could be some nice dark colour. And if I do want that a little bit darker, I'm just going to go... Oops, they're rocket flames. I've just made a boo-boo. So sometimes it's a good idea to go around things. And that looks like it's the sea. I said, by the time you've got round there, if you come back, it's going to look like a different blue. And that's making everything look that little bit better. And there's a fairy there, and she's going to stand out a bit more now. Once we get that blue there, it's going to look so much brighter. And the clouds are going to pop out, and it's going to look, I think that could be sea as well. And I just kind of puddle along. That's that could be sea as well. And you can get some really, really good fine colouring in with this brush. It's quite a nice fine brush. And there are a lot of small spaces on here, so it's quite nice. And of course this nice blue is going to look really good against that colour there. So thanks for being so supportive when I was being a bit of a div, because Ustream decided it was going to change everything, and it totally threw me. I'm normally quite good at mending things, but not quite sure about these clouds. If I'm not sure, I normally leave them and then I go back, because you can always do that. Now there is a snail here, and I very nearly coloured him in, so I'm going to clean the brush. And there was a little bit of blue on there, but not much. And I'm going to do, we're going to have a fawn coloured. There's green ochre, and I think we're going to have a green ochre snail. And there's another one somewhere else. There's lots of little snails. This is paler now down here. I think that's a face, so I'm just going to cover that in. You can just keep going with this colour. It's a very pale colour, but you can keep going. And then I want the ordinary ochre for the shell, which is that bit paler. I forgot his head. So we've now got the snail. And I do have kind of a fawny, yellowy colour on there, so let's have a look, see what we've got. Anything that's obscure, you can colour with this. So there's a pipe there. Which I've now coloured. So that means that I haven't wasted any colour at all. So that makes me feel a lot better. So I'll pan out a bit and you can see what I've been doing. It does not take long at all. It doesn't take long at all, and it's dry, so if you have to shut the book, that's fine. Now the reason that one's a bit crinkly is this is the one I did at the hospital, and I spilled a tablespoon of water when a car pulled out in front of us. So I've almost gone from, this is the first page I ever did, to going back to this watercolour effect with a brush. That was with a rigger, this is with a water brush, so I won't be spilling any more water if some idiot doesn't know what a roundabout is. And what I'll show you is I've done quite a lot of blue, not masses amount, and that's what I've used. So you've got to make sure it's dry. I can now go into my collection, and I love this for your Neos, and that's not the Neos, that's my pastel, that's my pencils, but I do the same thing with the pencils. Oops, and one's escaped, it's not good. Oops, it must be this one because it's the heaviest. So I've got my Neocolor 2s in a Derwent art bag. Oops, sorry, oopsie, I've moved the camera, that's why, sorry. So I've got my whites and my greys and the browns, and then I've got my yellows, oranges, reds, pinky reds, pinks, purples, cold blues, purpley blues, pale greens, dark greens, olive greens, and they've got those flesh colours last, or first, it depends on it. And then I have my art bars, my Derwent art bars, the full set of the Derwent art bars. So I can go to, I think that says Cobalt Blue number 160. And it shouldn't be too far away. That's 170. That's 162. It's that one, I think. Yeah, it's the greeny blue one. That's why it's with the turquoises. Cobalt Blue 160. And all I have to do is make sure that is definitely dry. It's just scratch over the top. And you don't need to press down hard. And I have completely revamped that. It's now full of colour again. And I'm only showing you how I did that. I don't do it every time. I shall wait till they go down and then sit and recolour them, but just using the little squares. Some I've used more, so this one is Dunkel Beige 405. It's one of my favourites, so and the browns. And 405, if that one is sepia, it should be that one, 405. It's called Beige, Dunkel Beige, and so all I need to do is to scratch over the top. And push that back into there. And use these if I'm near the house or about, but I normally like to use this with the water brush. It's the easiest way for me. And then of course they all get zipped into this little bag. And I'm going to hang them up. That's how I'm sorting them. I may buy one other because I have a lot of drawing pens, and drawing pencils. I have my pastel pencils in here, and I have my watercolour ink tints and watercolour pencils, and my Graphitint in this one. I think I've been playing about with these, and they really need to go back in their colours. And then I have my Inktense pencils, and I've been using them for one of the pages, so they're not actually physically inside these art bags. And then I'm going to buy another one for all my ink pens, and I suppose I could buy one for all my paintbrushes as well. No, perhaps they won't go that way. Perhaps not. I like my paintbrushes as I have them at the moment. It was just so that all my other things would be handy. And the zips are quite good, actually. My problem is my hands don't work very well, but the zips are really good. But I can hang them in a wardrobe in my caravan with all my art supplies, and they'll be safe and play in here. And then if I really need them out, I can get them out. So that was the idea. I did make some extra sleeves on there. But I love my little colour book. It's really easy. It's really easy, and the colours are quite vibrant. This is a small space, but they would work well with bigger spaces. You just have to do it in small sections, because if you wet a big page with a large amount of water, it will crinkle. But you can still do it if you do small amounts, especially these. Most of them are small areas. If you pick things off small areas and do a little bit at a time, you can keep it perfectly flat. It's just the backgrounds that I chicken out. So the new videos that I'm going to do will be backgrounds. If I don't like this space, I'll be tracing with an ink pen and making backgrounds. I think there was one or two that had quite big backgrounds that I wasn't happy with. And I do like this horse in the watercolour effects. It's quite nice. This is Graphitint, I think. Oh no, this was my greys that I made, and then this is Graphitint. So again, that's the Caran d'Ache metallics and Derwent metallics as well. Really gorgeous colours in there, and they're still metallic. That's done in exactly the same way, scratching a bit of colour, and they're actually in here. somewhere. The Graffy Tint, but I'm going to do some bigger squares, and I forgot where I put my at the end of those. I think they're at the end of that one. That's Prismalo because they're watercolours, and these are Caran d'Ache metallics. Oh, they actually may not be Caran d'Ache, they might be the other one. I decided 12 of each. So I think I might do this with the Graffy Tint actually. I think that looks quite good. So if there was a fair bit of space, I think I was going to kind of fill them up a bit. I think it wasn't this book, I think it was Imagimorphia. Yeah, I think it was this page. I think I was going to use some of the other jellyfish or sea creatures and fill this space up, but by tracing, because I can't draw in somebody else's style, so it's just as easy to kind of it's just as easy to trace. And these, I'll be tracing these into here as well. So there's lots of things to do in these Anamorphia ones, but if it's a smallish space, you can be creative with the Caran d'Ache because they're so versatile. So thanks for stopping by, and thanks for being creative with the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. In Kirby Roseanne's Imagimorphia. Thanks for watching.